On paper, Marshall Eriksen is the perfect man, but is he really? Marshall gets to be the moral center of How I Met Your Mother. Part of his moral superiority stems from the fact that he's been with Lily for his entire adult life, and is a doting boyfriend, husband, and father.
Lily's a part of who I am.
Something that insulates him from the many horrible and manipulative dating decisions made by Barney and Ted. In fact, he calls out his more immature friends for their transgressions. He's committed to being a good husband, father, and he wants to improve the world.
And if economic sanctions and trade restrictions aren't enforced, the destruction of the rainforest will continue and over 1 million species will be wiped out.
So you don't want coffee?
But upon further inspection, Marshall seems to be just as self-serving and morally limited as the rest of the cast. And he displays How I Met Your Mother's inherently limited moral outlook that being a good person basically means being a supportive friend. Here's our take on how I Met Your Mother's nicest guy, Marshall, reveals the show's underlying philosophy. Of all the characters on How I Met Your Mother, Marshall is consistently depicted as the most ethical, and the one most committed to being a good person.
Javier, Marcello, Suzanne. Hey, dang, let me help you with that.
And on this very relationships-focused show, being a good person is largely determined by who you are as a friend and partner. Most centrally, he's the token good guy of the 3 male leads. Marshall frequently acts as a moral check on Ted and Barney, reminding them that it is, in fact, possible to go too far in their pursuit of serial conquests.
You kissed a married woman, Ted. You committed credit card fraud. You kissed a married woman!
Marshall gets a lot of high ground in his group and likability points from the audience through his being in a long-term committed monogamous partnership. Lily is also the more dominant person in their relationship, something that gets established in the pilot and that the series frequently uses for comedy.
Hit me? Please! This guy can barely even spank me in bed for fun.
These jokes establish Marshall as being non-threatening, even though Jason Segel is much taller and bigger than Allison Hannigan. Even his brief breakup with Lily makes Marshall seem sympathetic and like the quote-unquote weaker partner. Instead of the cliche of the man avoiding commitment, she is the one who leaves him.
Well, she left, and I don't even know if she's coming back.
This contrast applies to their respective values too. While Lily's idea of justice generally involves deciding that she knows what's best for people around her and manipulating them accordingly, Marshall prides himself on believing in people and assuming the best of even those who have hurt him.
Marshall, you love everything and everyone. It's what I love about you, but it's also why your stamps are total crap.
However, Marshall is consistently faced with choosing between the greater good and his family. Though Marshall generally wants to make the world a better place, Marshall more specifically believes in the family-first mentality, something he got from his own large, tight-knit Minnesota family.
My dad was my hero. And he's my teacher. And he was my best friend.
This view is so entrenched, he forces it on Lily's relationship with her estranged father, Mickey, despite how poorly Mickey treated his daughter.
Lily, he's family, okay, and I'm sorry, but you just don't cut off family.
Marshall has a highly traditional idea of family, while Lily is more adventurous and open about being attracted to other people, including other women. Marshall is disgusted by even the idea of sleeping with anyone else.
Lily, Jerry needs to learn that other lifestyles are just as fulfilling as monogamy, so now you and Marshall are in an open marriage.
Gross!
Marshall's love for family above all is presented as a great virtue, but it's also his ethical downfall, and the thing that makes him and the show ultimately limited in their morality. Marshall tries to maintain the moral high ground throughout the series, but what defines his ethical standards? And what happens when he is forced to choose between his traditional family values and serving the greater good? Though he is repeatedly depicted as an idealistic crusader who wants to protect the environment, he winds up in a series of corporate law jobs which break his spirit and cause him to work for the exact opposite of his ideals.
I became a lawyer to save the environment, and now I'm working for the bad guys instead.
Why would Marshall spend years undermining everything he says he believes, you may ask? Well, this is a classic moral dilemma. He wants to make enough money to support his family.
This is a job for me, Barney. It's a way to make some extra wedding money, and that's it.
Marshall constantly has to pick between his moral obligation to his family and his moral obligation to the world. This causes him a lot of cognitive dissonance where he feels in order to fulfill his duty in one area of his life, he must compromise the other. Often, Marshall describes his corporate work as being empty.
I have to go. I have a big, meaningless stack of paperwork that I have to get off my desk to make room for tomorrow's big, meaningless stack of paperwork.
But it would be one thing for his work to be simply meaningless. Instead, it's actively harmful. He helps the people that work to destroy the environment to make money for himself and his loved ones, which is ultimately very selfish.
I know that you would have been okay if we were poor and I was trying to save the world.
The real question is there truly such a harsh binary as Marshall imagines, where keeping your family alive requires sacrificing your whole belief system?
But will you still be okay if I make a lot of money and I spend all of it spoiling you and our kids?
Does he actually value the environment as much as he says he does, or was that just something that sounded good when he was young?
That was a great dream, but we have a mortgage and we're trying to have kids. We're grown-ups now, Lily.
Even when he's quitting one of his soul-sucking jobs, Marshall's main concern is telling Lily about the threat to their livelihood.
How am I supposed to tell the person who I love more than anything in this world that I've just thrown away our future?
Though Marshall eventually manages to find work at an environmental law firm, it's for far less time than he spends in corporate law. So at least in his law career before becoming a judge, he has done more damage than good. Over the course of the series, we realize what is really important to Marshall: his own friends and family, at the expense of what he claims to value regarding the greater good. Consider the moment when Ted, struggling personally and professionally, pitches to design a new headquarters for Goliath National Bank, only to have Barney give the job to a rival architectural firm. Marshall tells Barney he's doing the wrong thing by picking a different design.
How could you do this to Ted after everything he's been through with Stella? You're just being selfish.
To Marshall, picking your friend over a better qualified stranger is the right thing to do. But this is simply nepotism. Before Marshall intervenes, Barney is actually doing his job. He might have bad taste, but he's choosing the design he genuinely thinks is best.
Marshall, this isn't about my office. Ted's building was good, Sven's was better. And I am not gonna let the fact that I am Ted's best friend be a factor in business.
If we step back, most of us would likely say Barney initially did the right thing, but in Marshall's telling, the right thing is the one that helps the people closest to you, even if it bends or breaks larger moral rules like fairness in the process.
There are repercussions to screwing over a friend.
And in keeping with the series' overall message, the episode ultimately lands on Barney realizing that moral compass Marshall is right.
Look, Ted, your design was the best, and you deserve it.
All this raises the question, how moral is Marshall, and by what standards do we judge him? Even when Marshall does take action to do the right thing, it often feels somewhat self-serving. He fantasizes about the glory of having saved the planet again through family, imagining impressing his future son.
One good deed leads to another and another.
Man, you're wise.
Marshall's sentimental need to feel good about doing good things can make him naive and overly trusting, open to be taken advantage of. This is seen in his relationship with his law school friend Brad, who pretends to be down on his luck in order to gain access to Marshall's law office.
I heard about the job opening at Honeywell and Coots, and knew that if I hung out in front of your office and pretended to be down on my luck, you'd take pity on me and get me an interview.
Instead of being fired, Marshall is ultimately rewarded for this. He narrowly X out a win in the case, though only for $1,000 more than his firm had originally been offered in a settlement. It's a personal victory for Marshall, but the other lawyers at his firm could have worked on other cases and done much more important work. This disappointment eventually leads to Marshall's decision to become a judge, so he can impose his ideas on environment-related cases. Not only would he have more power in such a position, but he feels the amount of good he can do will outweigh the bad of his previous work-related decisions.
It's people like you, people with hope and vision and integ, that should be behind that bench making the calls.
And that's when I realized I wanted to be a judge.
As a judge, Marshall claims the authority to make decisions on behalf of other people. But as we've seen, his own judgment isn't always the most objective. Marshall routinely puts personal relationships above the greater issues, as we see in this very episode. Though his co-worker Brad lied to Marshall and worked in support of the polluters he supposedly hates, it only takes one brunch invitation for Marshall to accept Brad's apology.
Would you object to an 11:15 brunch resi for 2 tomorrow at the Popover Pantry?
I'll allow it.
In this respect, Marshall's appeal for the audience is a lot like Barney's. He might behave badly in his outside life, but as long as he treats his close friends in a generally kind and supportive way, we can forgive him and continue to watch the show. In fact, what Marshall learns from his trial is the same thing Barney learns when he starts working at GMB in the first place. The best way to get what you want is to go where power is.
Son, yes, Gruber Pharmaceuticals probably polluted that lake. But I'm not going to ruin an important company just because they gave some bird a rash.
Overall, Marshall seems to try to do what's right as long as it doesn't cause any problems for himself, his family, or his friends, which makes him no fundamentally better than any of the other characters. While they may be frustrating at times, Marshall's inconsistencies make him human. and a flawed character that we love to watch. He operates on a plane of hope that all will be well as long as you have faith.
Faith is what gives life shape and meaning. I mean, if there aren't Yetis and leprechauns, what's the point of even getting up in the morning?
Perhaps what leads everyone around him and the viewers to see him as a moral center is that Marshall believes he's doing the right thing at any given moment. Marshall has to believe in his pebble theory, that one win or small victory can cause other good outcomes, and maybe somehow make up for the rest of what he's done with his life. And the series' frame narrative of Ted talking to his kids in the future proves Marshall right, even saying that his law firm somehow reversed climate change.
We're gonna save the planet.
And kids, as we now know, they did.
By the end of the series, we've spent enough time with Marshall and are sufficiently invested in his relationships that we want him to overcome any obstacle by simply being a nice guy. And it's through Marshall's character that we get How I Met Your Mother's ethical map. For better or worse, ultimately the show tells us that being good to your loved ones is the most concrete and realistic route to being a relatively moral person and living a fulfilled life.
How I Met Your Mother's Barney Stinson is nothing without his suit.
Nothing suits me like a suit!
It's the uniform that makes him feel like a superhero, whether he's at work, hanging out with his friends, or wooing women.
Do you remember why we suit up, James? The suit shows that we are a force to be reckoned with.
Barney's suits are such a vital part of his identity that even the origin story we get for this confident ladies' man culminates in him putting on the suit.
That was the night I was born. I rose like a phoenix, Armani-clad and fully awesome.
So what's the deeper symbolism of the Barnacles' fashion item of choice?
I'm at a point in my life where my suits are my family.
By dressing the way he does, Barney invokes centuries of associations with the suit, a long-held signifier of masculinity, success, and power.
How do you sleep at night?
A bed made of money.
This unapologetic bro, who begins as a fragile, sensitive, and damaged individual, uses his everyday costume to project an idea of himself, which is the foundation of his whole worldview.
Take the money. Money's good. Money is happiness.
But there's also a darker, controversial side to the suit identity, which plants it at the center of a culture war that's been quietly raging for decades.
My last 3 boyfriends were Wall Street guys. Bastards. So I vowed never again to date a guy who wears suits.
And in the years since the end of How I Met Your Mother and the simultaneously airing Mad Men, the suit's traditional connotations of strength and status have increasingly faded, giving way to new wardrobes of power. Here's our take on why, when it comes to Barney Stinson, the suit truly makes the man, and what kind of man lies underneath it.
Wait, those are your pajamas? You sleep in a pajama suit?
Of course. What do you think I sleep in? Shall I walk you through the history?
I'm gonna explicitly say no.
Barney comes into his friends' lives fully formed, impeccably suited up, and preaching the gospel of doing likewise.
Get a suit. Suits are cool. Exhibit A.
But he was once a tie-dye wearing hippie with dreams of making the world better.
Joining the Peace Corps with you is going to be legendary.
I know. Only 5 short weeks till we're down in Nicaragua.
Who viewed suit types with disdain.
Suits.
Barney only became the materialistic ladies' man we know when a businessman stole his girlfriend after giving him some harsh words of advice.
Forget all that touchy-feely crap. You get money, you get laid. End of discussion.
It was then that Barney reinvented himself, beginning with suiting up in the uniform of the man who bested him in a sequence that channels the feeling of a warrior getting ready for battle. To understand why the suit holds such totemic power for Barney, we have to look back to the early 19th century and a British dandy named Beau Brummel. Brummel was a London socialite who rejected the ornate powdered wigs and stockings favored by noblemen, dressing instead in more streamlined, tailored coats, full-length pants, crisply pressed shirts, and knotted cravats. Brummel, who said he spent 5 hours a day getting dressed and polished his boots with champagne, inspired the rest of the upper crust to adopt his fashion and his attitudes toward appearance and hygiene. Broadly speaking, the man's suit has continued to connote wealth and status ever since.
Diamond suited up.
By the 1940s, though, suits could be produced in a quick, generic fashion, leading to the first era in which suits were worn by virtually every man. The muted colors and standardized design of the gray flannel suit reflected a society that sought order and stability after decades of war and depression.
All I want's a good job, a mild future, and a little house big enough for me and my wife.
It was a uniform that proclaimed your willingness to fit in and play your part as a cog in the machine rather than pursue an individual identity.
But I don't know anything about public relations.
Who does? You got a clean shirt, you bathe every day, and that's all there's to it.
Barney also implicitly links himself to the world of the 40s and 50s.
Thanks, doll.
He has a fondness for old-fashioned patriarchal ideals of living that allows him to thrive in a hyper-masculine business world where conforming to macho social norms is key to getting ahead.
Nice tie, steak sauce.
Oh, steak sauce.
Where? I don't see
Marshall, sidebar. Your tie is steak sauce. It means A1. A1, get it?
In Barney's professional world, success is still about assimilation into the machine.
Conformity. It's the one who's different that gets left out in the cold.
And standing out in the wrong way can be a fatal error.
Hey, Eriksen, when did you join AC/DC?
This focus on fitting in is underlined by the running joke that Barney won't reveal what his specific job actually is.
What do you do?
Please.
Hey, so now that I'm working here, are you finally going to tell me exactly what your job is?
Please.
And in his often brutal corporate culture,
What do you got there, Eriksen? Mommy packed your lunch?
the suit is the armor he wears into daily battle.
This is corporate America, Marshall. Screaming is a motivational tool, like Christmas bonuses or sexual harassment.
Much of the groundwork for Barney and his fellow business bros' attitude was laid in the 1980s with the rise of the power suit.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
Characters like Wall Street's Gordon Gekko represented a generation of suit-wearing men who turned the pursuit of money into a religion.
I create nothing. I own. We make the rules, pal.
Making no apologies for treating the world as something to be conquered.
Whoever has the most when he dies wins. Look, it's the American way.
Their suits advertised their zealous embrace of work, greed, and capitalism as a 24-hour way of life.
This is your game. Winner takes all.
Barney's own philosophy may be relatively less cutthroat, yet he's no less competitive, whether it comes to laser tag or taking on wacky challenges.
If you did everything on that list, you would die.
That wasn't
Challenge accepted.
He approaches every woman he pursues like a hostile takeover. And like Gordon Gekko, he's completely shameless about getting exactly what he wants.
In my body, where the shame gland should be, there's a second awesome gland.
While Barney takes obvious comfort in surrendering his individualism in pursuit of status, his friends Ted and Marshall, like many people who have been forced to wear a suit for work, associate it with servitude.
You are sad. You are beaten down.
Barney's friends represent the other side of a debate that's raged ever since the suit became the workplace uniform. Should we find our place in the machine and reap the rewards, or rage against it and carve out our own path?
Now, I suppose you could learn to love yourself for the unique little snowflake that you are, or you could change your entire personality, which is just so much easier. Suits are full of joy. They're the sartorial equivalent of a baby's smile.
While Barney subscribes to suits as a projection of success and happiness, they're also about protection and camouflage, an outer layer that covers up emotional damage inside.
Give them some spiel about your deep-seated insecurities, which don't really exist because, let's face it, you're awesome.
The last time he allowed himself to be vulnerable, Barney got so wounded that he adopted a whole new identity designed to make him invincible, Darth Vader style. He embraces superficiality because if he doesn't have deeper feelings, nobody can hurt them.
When I get sad, I stop being sad and be awesome instead.
We've seen this idea of the suit as a kind of disguise throughout pop culture.
I need a new suit. Yeah,
3 buttons is a little 90s, Mr. Wayne.
I'm not talking fashion, Mr. Fox, so much as function.
Like Barney, Mad Men's Don Draper is introduced as a self-assured ladies' man who knows exactly what he wants, and he usually gets it.
By golly, you are an indecently lucky man.
However, we soon learn that it's all a lie. Don has assumed someone else's identity, and he uses his crisp suits, good looks, and knack for crafting ad copy to sell a false idea of himself.
Of course, someone like you don't need to see yourself in a Cadillac. You're walking about in one every day.
Yet despite dressing the part well enough to fool everyone else, he never succeeds at feeling like that man inside.
Took another man's name and made nothing of it.
American Psycho's Patrick Bateman has sculpted himself into the image of 80s success, a well-groomed yuppie who boasts the cool, ruthless confidence and ability to blend in that is so valued in the business world.
I hate that job anyway. See why you just don't quit.
Because I want to fit in.
But Bateman, in fact, leads a deeply insecure, skin-deep existence where principles are replaced by choosing the right brands, and someone else having a better business card can send him spiraling into an existential crisis.
Look at that subtle off-white coloring. The tasteful thickness of it. Oh my God. It even has a watermark.
His society's lack of regard for individualism has made him lose all sense of who he is.
Alan has mistaken me for this dickhead Marcus Halberstram. It seems logical because Marcus also works at PNP and in fact does the same exact thing I do. Marcus and I even go to the same barber.
And driven insane, Bateman resorts to killing people in a desperate bid to somehow regain a sense of identity or even the feeling that he exists.
There is an idea of a Patrick Bateman. Some kind of abstraction. But there is no real me. I simply am not there.
Barney does not have Patrick Bateman's amoral detachment, although he does share his love of pop music.
And not even the good Backstreet Boys, the older lame dance move comeback tour Backstreet Boys.
The good Backstreet Boys?
And his reliance on consumption to fill a void.
I want to feel better, Marshall. I can't keep buying things.
And while Barney's backstory is perhaps not as tragic as Don Draper's, the more we learn about his troubled past, the more we see how his reinvention was born of a similar desire to bury his true self beneath a perfectly cut Armani.
You were abandoned, you never dealt with it, and so now you never allow yourself to feel anything, and that's how you survive in this corporate world.
At times in the series, we witness Barney grow as a person, as he periodically lets himself be vulnerable and opens up to serious connections.
I'm searching for what I really want in life. And you know what? I have absolutely no idea what that is.
Metaphorically de-suiting, if you will.
It's weird not seeing you in a suit. What's going on?
My entire sexual history was built on a rotting foundation of lies. Whole identity is lost in a pit of menthol ashes.
In Robin, the dude-like cool girl who seems the perfect match to his classic bro personality.
To my femininity.
No, you're more of a bro. You're a dude. You're a man.
He thinks for a while that he's met the exception who can actually make him change his ways.
The emotional stuff? It's not your thing. I thought I'd save you the trouble.
Maybe I don't want to be saved the trouble.
Yet sooner or later, he inevitably backtracks.
I know there was a time when it seemed like I was capable of going the distance, but if it wasn't going to happen with Robin, then it's just not going to happen with anyone.
And closes up again behind his shallow suit identity.
I found out I'll never trust someone enough to get married. My single life is, and always will be, legend. Wait for it.
Handcrafted by Pietro della Camera, Milan's famous 101-year-old tailor who, upon completing the very last stitch in this suit, dropped dead.
Despite the traumatic backstories that created both Barney Stinson's and Don Draper's trademark styles, the popularity of both their shows helped to usher in a resurgence of the suit as a symbol of masculine glamour.
Nothing sexier than a man in a fine cravat.
During the late 2000s and early 2010s, brands like J. Crew flourished by providing men with affordable, approachable suits, while Banana Republic even debuted a Mad Men-inspired menswear collection.
We're basically mad men.
We are. We're such madmen.
Meanwhile, Barney became such an icon that the Oxford English Dictionary recognized him as the quintessence of a certain iteration of the contemporary bro.
Oh yeah, you just know she likes it dirty.
However, as billionaire tech moguls like Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Dorsey, and Elon Musk became the new icons of power, they also created a new image of success. These guys were so important, they didn't need to dress like it.
My colleagues and I are doing things that no one in this room, including and especially your clients, are intellectually or creatively capable of doing.
They could run the world in a t-shirt and hoodie, or even a bathrobe.
I think we were gonna let you parade around in your ridiculous suits pretending you were running this company?
Sorry, my Prada's at the cleaners!
The suit can even now project the opposite of its previous connotations. As Vox pointed out in 2019, the suit has become a uniform for the powerless, increasingly worn by people at a disadvantage, like when they're applying for a job or appearing in court. Even old-school firms like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, once emblematic of everything the suit stood for, have shifted to more casual dress codes. And as the COVID-19 pandemic set in and more people began working from home, the clothing companies that rode the Mad Men wave have found themselves struggling to survive. Men, in short, are no longer suiting up.
Making a point dressing like that? So you dress for me?
By the time How I Met Your Mother ended in 2014, there were already a few other things about Barney that were beginning to seem a tad out of step with the times.
Sexual harassment charges, 9 for 9.
His treatment of women.
I'm pretty sure I sold a woman. I didn't speak the language, but I shook a guy's hand, he gave me the keys to a Mercedes, and I left her there.
His elitism.
Barney, can you grab me a screwdriver?
Sure thing. Louise, Barney Stinson, 12H. I got $100 if you can be here in 5. Thanks.
His casual racism.
Hey, so you know how I've always had a thing for half Asian girls? Well, now I've got a new favorite. Lebanese girls.
Today, his increasingly regressive-feeling misogynistic and materialistic attitudes hardly make him appear the role model that the majority of modern men want to ape in their wardrobes or otherwise.
I drink every day, I sleep 3 hours every night, and I have multiple sex partners. I'm doing everything right.
Meanwhile, the 80s greed is good philosophy Barney's suit evokes is at the root of much of today's crippling wealth inequality.
The richest 1% of this country owns half our country's wealth.
And as the world has fallen into cycles of global economic crisis, movies like The Big Short, The Wolf of Wall Street, and Hustlers have placed blame squarely on the suits. Those spawn of Gordon Gekko who exist only to rig the game in their favor.
You see what they did to this country? They stole from everybody.
Jokes about a sharply dressed rogue doing whatever it takes to make a buck no longer play as lovable or charming.
Our company just bought them out in a ruthless takeover. Took 2 months. Cost 2,000 jobs. It was brutal. Who wants a t-shirt?
These days, suits are symbols of a generation of men whose selfishness and vanity have caused more harm than good.
CEOs, CFOs, investment bankers, corporate raiders, hedge funders, axe murderers, coming straight from the crime scene into the club.
The suit, as an indicator of backward attitudes, has even been taken to nasty extremes by a group of neo-fascists and white nationalists who have suited up as a way of asserting alpha male dominance and adding a protective veneer of legitimacy to some truly abhorrent beliefs. Like all things fashion-related, the suit has gone in and out of style, and probably will continue to do so in years to come. In Don Draper's 60s, it was caught in the middle of a culture war between old-school family values and edgy bohemian ideals. This symbol of hard work and success to some, becoming the thumbprint of the man to others.
You know what it's like to watch all you ants go into your hive? My God, stop talking. Make something of yourself.
And despite all the ways American culture has morphed and mutated since then, the accusation made by the beatniks has essentially stuck. To be a suit today is widely seen as having given up on your sense of self to serve a broken system. It's something you are if you haven't bothered to preserve any integrity or soul that makes you more than a walking clothes hanger.
Because that's who corporate America wants. People who seem like bold risk takers, but never actually do anything.
For better or worse, Barney Stinson personifies the suit identity. He's an appearance-obsessed man's man who's built his life around the material trappings of success.
But what do I have? My whole life, some money in the bank, some suits in my closet, and a string of one-night stands.
And doesn't see anything wrong with that.
My life rocks. Money, suits, and sex, these are tears of joy.
So ultimately, looking back on Barney Stinson today is a lot like looking at the suit itself. It's undeniably stylish and appealing, but also outdated in many situations, often used to lend the appearance of sophistication to something awful, and ultimately rooted in a set of values that are mostly best left in the past. At this point, it's no secret that How I Met Your Mother's Ted Mosby has a pretty delusional outlook on life. He's the definition of a toxic nice guy, and also not a great friend. But what is it specifically about his way of looking at the world and the people in it that was so wrong? And what can we learn from it, even if he didn't? Let's take a closer look at what Ted got wrong about life, love, and finding happiness. Ted had pretty intense main character syndrome. In his mind, everyone else on Earth was only there in service of his story. The show itself adds to this mindset since it is literally framed as him telling a very, very, very long story about himself where everyone else just features as side characters.
Kids, never underestimate the power of destiny. Because when you least expect it, the littlest thing can cause a ripple effect that changes your life.
Because of this mindset, he feels that everyone around him should bend to his will. While he doesn't have to be a great friend, he expects his friends to constantly be there to support him, to help heal his bruised ego, to go along with his wacky schemes, to derail their own lives in service of helping him with his.
I'm jeopardizing my law career so you can throw not one, not two, but 3 parties for some girl that you just met who's probably not even gonna show up.
Even his family isn't immune. He throws a tantrum and refuses to give his planned speech at his own mother's wedding just because he's upset that she's getting married for a second time before he's even been able to do it once.
I have to leave.
Wait, Ted, what about your toast?
Make up some emergency or something. I can't handle this.
Ted, where are you going? It's your mother's wedding.
He believes that the entire world should revolve around him and his problems, and that he shouldn't actually have to do anything to fix them, but that instead the universe itself should just intervene and give him what he wants whenever he wants it. And most of the time, that thing he wants is a woman he can't have.
It's like, okay, I'm ready. Where is she?
While he fashions himself as a hopeless romantic, he really only sees women as objects for him to acquire. More like a big game hunter than someone really looking for love. He is not at all interested in these women as their own individual beings, but instead just as more side characters to slot into his story, whether she likes it or not.
This is gonna happen. She can't say it's not meant to be. It is meant to be, and you know why? 'Cause I mean it to be.
He likes the chase, hunting down some woman who isn't into him and bothering her until she changes her mind, more than he actually cares about finding love, or even being in an actual relationship.
See, for all your big talk about being ready for a relationship, deep down you're single. It's your default setting.
He's obsessed with whatever and whoever he can't have, and will go to some pretty concerning and controlling lengths to get what he wants.
And now, a very single and available Maggie Wilkes is on her way to this very spot. I sent a cab with a female driver so she'd have no other interaction with a man until she got to me.
But once the chase is over and he gets what he wants, that doesn't make him happy either. He gets bored quickly and is on to the next chase.
24 hours ago, you were begging me to bring some other girl to my wedding, and now you're over her?
I've moved on.
A major problem that stems from Ted's main character syndrome is his belief that nothing he does can really be that bad, because he sees himself as a nice, good person.
You apologized, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry were the first words out of my mouth. I'm sorry, but I'm not apologizing.
He thinks all of his misdeeds, no matter how bad, are totally justified because they're things he wanted to do, and he's a good person, so they must be good choices.
What the hell is wrong with you, dude?
I mean, I lose things.
You kissed a married woman, Ted. You committed credit card fraud.
This mindset allows him to brush off other people's choices anytime any of his poor choices hurt them. If they don't see how he's actually good and right, they just don't get it. And if they're a woman, they're probably crazy, of course.
It's my birthday, and you're telling me I'm not the one for you?
It's really not such a big deal. I mean, it's the odds. It's like you lost the lottery.
Oh, so dating you is like winning the lottery?
Though, of course, if someone hurts him at all, no one will ever hear the end of it. Because as far as Ted's concerned, while his bad choices are just little oopsies on his way to his happily ever after, everyone else's mistakes are proof of their innate failings as human beings. His selfish nature leads him to having this kind of black and white thinking about everything. What Ted wants to do is always good, and anything that goes against what Ted wants is always bad.
And when you love someone, you don't stop, ever. Even when people roll their eyes or call you crazy, even then, especially then.
When he hurts other people, he doesn't get why everyone gets so worked up about it, because hey, he's just a sweet little guy looking for love.
You lied and said you were broken up with Victoria before you actually were, so you could try to nail Robin, and you wound up losing both girls in one night?
And he also uses this line of thinking to justify his creepier behavior too. Like when, after not getting matched with anyone in a matchmaking service, can't imagine why, he sneaks into the office, steals the file of the only woman who did remotely match with him, and then learns everything she likes so he can stalk her and con her into falling in love with him by pretending to be her ideal guy, even though she's already engaged to someone else. And this also highlights another issue that arises from his self-centered thinking. While he consistently freaks out if a woman he's even slightly interested in doesn't immediately commit herself wholly and forever to him from the second they meet, he doesn't actually respect relationships at all. He treats the woman he dates like garbage, and he also sees any other relationship as fair game to break up if he thinks the woman in it might possibly be the one for him. Because Ted sees himself as the center of the story of the universe, that also means that he thinks that he knows what's best for everyone else too. He thinks that he really knows the way that things should be, and if everyone would just listen to him, all of the problems of the world would be solved. He can't comprehend when someone goes off narrative and does something that's out of line with how he thinks they should behave. That is, the way that would be most advantageous to him.
What could she mean when she says no? I don't know. It is totally cryptic.
This is far from over.
Take the engaged woman whose life he tried to ruin because he was convinced she was the one for a whole week before he moved on to someone else. His proposition to her was that she couldn't possibly really be in love with a guy that she had only known for a few months, because really, she should be in love with him, a guy she literally just met, and who is, again, stalking her and lying to her about who he is.
Don't you think you're being a little impulsive marrying a guy you just met a few months ago?
Don't you think it's a little impulsive for you to proposition an engaged woman you don't even know?
See, we're both impulsive. We're perfect for each other.
Ted's grand romantic delusions about love lead him to believe that it should be instant, an immediate spark that ignites a love that burns forever and never dies out.
It was like something from an old movie, where the sailor sees the girl across the crowded dance floor, turns to his buddy, and says, "See that girl? I'm gonna marry her someday."
This leads to him constantly love-bombing the women he's interested in, desperately trying to rush the relationship past the getting to know each other steps and directly into the committed for life stage.
Look, obviously, you can't tell a woman you just met you love her. But it sucks that you can't.
But unfortunately for Ted, the women he dates aren't the unquestioning, uncomplicated cardboard cutouts of his dreams, but instead real women with thoughts and feelings of their own. The second he's confronted with his partner actually being a full human being, he becomes disappointed and starts losing interest.
Yeah, you gotta go.
While he always lamented that he wanted a deep, caring love, he was also always chasing relationships that didn't work, because deep down, he believes that real love means hardship and pain.
If you're looking for the word that means caring about someone beyond all rationality and wanting them to have everything they want, no matter how much it destroys you, it's love.
He simultaneously believes that love should be instant and unquestionable, but also something that you're constantly having to struggle through. This is a big part of why he's never happy. When he's out of a relationship, he's lonely and obsessive. When he's in a relationship, either he's bored and runs, or feels the need to cause problems so that he can feel something. He spends years in an on-off relationship with Robin, constantly upset that she isn't ready to commit as quickly or intensely as he wants to, even though she was very clear up front about what kind of relationship she was looking for.
It's a great look. But you're looking at the wrong girl.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
But Ted doesn't see this as an obvious sign that they're incompatible and want different things. He sees it as a challenge. He just keeps pushing past her boundaries until he wears her down, and then counts that as a win, and somehow love. They continue to not work out because he can't handle that this object of his obsession won't just mold herself into who he wants her to be.
I need an answer.
If you want me to say yes right now, I can't do that.
Well, if it's not yes, then it's a no.
She doesn't want his ideal future of settling down and having kids. She wants to excel at her job and travel the world. When she won't give up all of her dreams to give him what he wants, he breaks up with her. And in the end, the show seems to agree with Ted that she should have just changed her life to do what Ted wanted. She ends up miserable and alone, all because she had the audacity to want to do her job that she enjoys.
The gang is my ex-husband hitting on slutty cops right in front of me, and it's the guy I probably should have ended up with the beautiful mother of his child.
Usually over the course of the series, a main character has lots of time to learn from their mistakes and grow as a person, changing into a happier, better version of their younger self. But Ted doesn't really change, or learn anything at all.
Okay, it's official. Do bad things, good things happen.
He does seem to be experiencing personal growth near the end of the show at first, as he meets and falls in love with the mother. But then at the very end, the show pulls the rug out from under everything, seemingly just to say, no, actually, being really weird about Robin forever was the right move, actually. You were right to begin with, buddy.
This is a story about how you're totally in love with Aunt Robin.
We've discussed at length why this ending didn't work at all, but the biggest issue is that it sends the message that never changing or taking anyone else into consideration is actually how you get the life you think you deserve. Not by growing as a person and working to build a better life with those close to you, but just by wearing down the world until it's forced to give you what you want.
I just call her up on the phone and ask her out on a date.
Yes!
And that's something you guys would want?
Yes!
Ted's story was a great opportunity to unpack how his kind of one-track toxic thinking hurts not only you, but also those around you, and how much better your life is once you're able to grow out of that mindset.
Let her go.
No, this is destiny.
No, Ted, this is forcing it.
But they had already recorded the finale reveal years earlier, and so we're just like, well, who needs character growth? At the end of the day, How I Met Your Mother is a comedy show. The characters are going to be a bit ridiculous and over the top, and it isn't meant to be used as a guidebook on how to live our lives. But many people in real life do get trapped in some of Ted's more troubling mindsets, and they don't have a writer's room there to constantly bail them out and make sure they get their happy ending. So it's useful to look a bit more deeply at where Ted went wrong and how it actually kept him from getting the life he wanted for so long, and left a wake of sad, hurt people behind him in the process. He's a great example of how not to look for love, no matter how bad you want it, and of the kind of person to not let yourself become, or get trapped in a relationship with.
Good night, psycho.
Should dating rules ever be followed? How I Met Your Mother was full of a lot of dating rules, often voiced by Barney Stinson, who lived and preached the bro code, his infamous framework of do's and don'ts in all things related to women, dating, and hooking up. Of course, Barney's formula pursues a specific set of questionable goals,
money, suits, and sex,
without consideration of his impact on other people. But he fervently believes there are proven, almost scientific principles you have to respect if you want to succeed romantically.
You never make plans with a girl further in the future than the amount of time you've been going out.
And in this, he's far from alone. The show's focus on rules reflects that, for as long as people have dated, they've had to navigate a host of perceived laws about how to act, who's an acceptable match, and how a potential partner's behavior should be interpreted.
If a guy doesn't call you, he doesn't want to call you.
And while today many of How I Met Your Mother's rules are cringeworthy and dated, displaying a retrograde understanding of gender, they still get at a deeper ongoing desire to codify dating and relationships into a clear set of laws. Maybe that's because making our romantic and sexual lives into safe, predictable ventures would take away a lot of the fear, anxiety, and guesswork that actually characterize the search for romance.
Hey, what's up? Nothing. Am I dreaming? I'll leave you alone forever now. Thanks.
So, does How I Met Your Mother really believe it's necessary to follow the rules of dating? The show ultimately underlined that love can't be contained by any rules or rational constraints.
This woman has a hold on my heart that I could not break if I wanted to.
But at the same time, as much as Ted and the gang frequently dismiss Barney's rules and don't want to abide by them,
I'm sick of all the rules! There's too many of them!
in some plots they do end up proving the rules right. How I Met Your Mother seems to understand the absurdity of dating rules in balance with people's urgent need to make and follow them. Here's our take on whether any of How I Met Your Mother's rules were onto anything, and why real love demands throwing out the rule book. As obnoxious as Barney's dating rules can be, the need to have some rules and structures in place around romance is universal. Since medieval chivalry, there have been largely agreed upon rituals and etiquette for courtship. In past eras, this revolved a lot around the social suitability of matches, as well as measures to prevent young couples from being sexually intimate before marriage, whether through physical means or supervised visits.
He took her out buggy riding in the late afternoon without a chaperone, and then he refused to marry her.
In our modern post-sexual revolution era, where daters are less concerned with chastity and more with choice, the rules are a lot more psychological and up for debate. So it makes sense that deciphering nebulous dating expectations and trying to lay down romantic best practices is a common pastime in romantic comedies and sitcoms.
Not dinner, not necessarily on the first date, because halfway through dinner you could be really sorry you asked them to dinner, whereas if it's just a drink, if you like them, you can always ask them to dinner.
The central premise of classic 1989 rom-com When Harry Met Sally is basically to question and eventually affirm a dating rule at its center.
Men and women can't be friends because the sex part always gets in the way.
And many beloved TV shows feature characters discussing rules in an attempt to determine the appropriate etiquette of a romantic scenario.
If a couple breaks up and they had plans to go to a neutral place, who withdraws? What's the etiquette?
Episodes of Sex and the City are often structured around the women debating or dissecting a particular dating rule or inquiry in the context of 1990s and 2000s Manhattan.
Are we simply romantically challenged, or are we sluts?
Even if you look back to Shakespeare, As You Like It is centered on Rosalind's playful tests of Orlando's love for her through a series of evaluations and rules she secretly imposes on him. How I Met Your Mother's rules feel undeniably dated today, but that's because they're a manifestation of this universal impulse reflecting their specific era. In the same month the show premiered in 2005, The Game, a memoir of Neil Strauss's time in the pickup artist community, became a bestseller by teaching men, often sinister techniques for seducing women.
The playbook contains every scam, con, hustle, hoodwink, gambit, flim-flam, stratagem, and bamboozle I've ever used.
Barney is the embodiment of many of these shameless practices, including peacocking, where a man wears a loud, standout piece of clothing to call attention to himself, or the infamous negging, where a man insults a woman to damage her self-esteem and make her vulnerable to come-ons.
Amazing eyes. You wearing color contacts?
Negging. That's hilarious. Saying something negative to a pretty girl in order to undermine her social value. It's supposed to make you want to win his approval.
While men were being taught how to trick women into sleeping with them, women in this era were being told to get wiser about reading the signs of men who were wasting their time. Released a decade before The Game in 1995, The Rules, time-tested secrets for capturing the heart of Mr. Right, sold millions of copies by educating women on how to be withholding with men and play hard to get.
I thought you were serious about this guy. You can't sleep with him on the first date.
Oh God, here she goes again with the rule.
2004 saw the self-help bestseller He's Just Not That Into You, made into a 2009 film, which urged women to stop making excuses for a man who acts non-committal and recognize that he's not interested.
If a guy is treating you like he doesn't give a shit, he genuinely doesn't give a shit.
Together, these male-oriented and female-oriented guides added up to a pretty hostile view of dating as essentially a battle of the sexes, where it's assumed all men want casual sex and women should deny that sex if they want to be respected or to hook a man. As Strauss admits in his book, a side effect of sarging, or using these techniques to pick up women, is that it can lower one's opinion of the opposite sex, while Stephen Poole wrote in a Guardian review at the time, and yet, as Strauss has described it, the inverse is true. A low opinion of the opposite sex is a prerequisite for sarging. But while much of our culture has thankfully moved on from this warlike mainstream dating narrative, and books like The Rules and The Game are no longer in their peaks of popularity, dating rules are still very present and have shifted to fit the times.
You're wearing glasses, it obstructs your eyes, which provide us with a very strong signal of whether or not you're trustworthy as an individual.
Dating apps have arguably just created more rules and material to interpret, as one has to decipher whether a user is on a particular app for hookups or a serious relationship, who the real person is behind a profile, how to translate oneself into a witty, sexy profile, how long to message before a date, and how long to give a date before cutting your losses if there's no chemistry.
A lemon law. From the moment the date begins, you have 5 minutes to decide whether you're going to commit to an entire evening.
Some studies have shown that swipe-based dating apps can lower self-esteem or even increase depression and anxiety. More rules just makes dating feel like more of a minefield. So what's the point of all these rules anyways? It's no accident that, in a show that includes a lawyer in its cast and a lot of privileged people, How I Met Your Mother's rules take on a legalistic tone.
You do realize that 1 out of every 8 adult women in America is a prostitute. You
just made that up.
Withdrawn.
It's as if they're laws that can be used to protect guys like Barney and legitimize behaviors that are clearly creepy when they're not predatory. Since Barney's rules primarily apply to men dating women, they tend to spend a lot of time dissecting and evaluating women, inflating the male ego and abdicating responsibility for actions.
The rules for girls are the same as the rules for gremlins.
Many are rooted in male insecurity and the desire to exert power over women, but their allegedly objective perspective on dating creates an environment where mistreating women is simply science, rather than a self-serving and cruel decision. This is why Barney articulates his bro code as having a basis in authority that is either historical,
there should be a set of rules that govern the way bros comport themselves among other bros,
or biblical.
Article 1. Bros before hoes.
His other dating rules are also occasionally made to sound like they're taken from literal scripture.
We wait 3 days to call a woman because that's how long Jesus wants us to wait.
One category of the How I Met Your Mother rules is about criteria for what kind of women men find desirable to sleep with or date. Some of these are hilariously baseless.
Girls whose names end in L-Y are always dirty. Holly, Kelly, Carly, Lily.
Oh yeah, I know it's true.
Others, like Barney's hot crazy rule.
A girl is allowed to be crazy, as long as she is equally hot. Thus, if she's this crazy, she has to be this hot.
Sees on something a little more pernicious. The way that women's behavior in dating is scrutinized and deemed crazy if it in any way diverges from whatever a man wants her to act like. Meanwhile, the hot crazy rule implicitly assumes men are more logical but can't help but be overwhelmed by the beauty of the women they're attracted to. And this leads us to another category of the rules, ones that help Barney and other men evade accountability. Consider the mermaid rule.
Every woman, no matter how initially repugnant, has a mermaid clock. The time it takes for you to realize you want to bone her.
The idea that men must inevitably want to sleep with every woman they get to know suggests that their behavior is, on some level, out of their control, and therefore they can't be blamed for it. Even rules created by women reinforce this assumption that certain things are just out of the control of helpless men, like Ted's mother's rule.
Nothing good happens after 2 a.m.
When Ted violates it by going to hook up with Robin before breaking up with Victoria, his choice implodes his relationships with both women. Still, the 2 a.m. rule that he ends the episode by saying that he proved positions Ted's double betrayal as just an unavoidable side effect of it being late in the evening.
I managed to hurt 2 people I cared about. If there's a lesson to be learned here, it's this. When it's after 2 a.m., just go to sleep.
There are occasional rules on How I Met Your Mother for women to determine which men they should date.
You never want to date a guy with perfect fingernails? Jerk nails, exactly.
But these don't receive nearly the same amount of attention. And when we look to other shows or movies that center women, we see that women's rules focus a lot on cultivating desirability, being the kind of woman men think they should date. In Charlotte's introduction on Sex and the City, she's talking about hiding a key aspect of herself to avoid turning off a mate.
Most men are threatened by successful women. If you want to get these guys, you have to keep your mouth shut and play by the rules.
Cher from Clueless's rules of seduction focus on how to make oneself appear desired by others and sexy.
I sent myself love letters and flowers and candy, just so he'd see how desired I was. Sometimes you have to show a little skin. This reminds guys of being naked, and then they think of sex.
Beyond that, many of the books aimed at women, like The Rules and He's Just Not That Into You, come across like self-defense, protecting women from getting taken in and treated as prey by the Barneys of the world. They teach women a set of parallel rules that invert the male chase.
You've got to make him chase you, okay? If it's easy, he'll move on.
So much so that you can see the rules' emphasis on being hard to get as a reversal of the aloofness men were supposed to display through things like the 3-day rule.
That's why the book says never sleep with a guy on the first date.
Totally.
Or the second date.
Just tell me how many dates.
17.
In Season 5, How I Met Your Mother explores this philosophy through Jennifer Lopez's guest starring role as Anita, a rules-type author who tries to teach women to tame the Barneys of the world.
Of course you're still single. Take a look at yourself, you dumb slut. Is a brilliant book.
And it scares away guys who are only interested in getting laid.
Anita uses the power of no to control most men and seems to have a chance of breaking Barney.
This girl that Barney's going after, she kind of sounds like the anti-Barney.
Until in the end, Barney ends up using her own no strategy on her to win.
Maybe you might get lucky after the 12th date.
No.
The 11th date?
No.
Tonight before dinner.
The show uses its most cartoonish character, Barney, to voice all these rules with an air of silliness and give the series deniability. But Ted, the show's protagonist, goes back and forth over how much to believe in them. As Ted tries to figure out some kind of cheat code to find his soulmate, the show's narration is, in a sense, Ted crafting his own set of rules. Not designed, like Barney's, to pursue lots of meaningless sex, but to find true love and understand the dynamics of long-term commitment. At times, Ted follows Barney's rules.
It's not cheating if you're not the one who's married. It's not cheating if her name has 2 adjacent vowels. And it's not cheating if she's from a different area code.
Often to regret it. Other times, he pushes back against the rules and defies them.
You have to wait 3 days to call a woman.
That rule is completely played out. I got a new rule. It's kind of crazy, but I call it, you like her, you call her.
He texts women early, tells them he loves them far too soon for conventional wisdom, and dates people in his immediate personal orbit. But sometimes this blows up on him and he comes around to thinking the rule was right after all. After Barney tries to convince Ted not to go out with his doctor, Stella, because she violates the platinum rule of not dating people you can't avoid like coworkers, or in this case, your doctor.
The platinum rule. Never, ever, ever, ever love thy neighbor.
Ted rejects the entire premise of Barney's rules.
Chances are Stella and I are not going to live happily ever after. That doesn't mean I'm not going to try. And when it does fail, so help me God, it's not going to be because of some rule.
But while Ted sounds right here, the ensuing plot doesn't prove Barney wrong. Stella refuses to go out with Ted until after their doctor-patient relationship is over, thus avoiding the platinum rule problem, and eventually their relationship ends because of the violation of another rule. At least, that's how Ted frames their breakup in his narration.
Don't ever, ever invite an ex to your wedding. If someone had given me that advice, well, it would have changed everything.
And while Ted ignored this rule because, as usual, he was putting Robin first and wanted her at the wedding, it's a case where all the other members of the gang, including Robin, agree no exes at a wedding is just a sensible rule of thumb.
I kind of get the no exes thing. Why ask a failed romance to come and watch your successful one?
Other rules on the show do seem to come true too, like the mermaid rule, which can be interpreted in a positive light. Some of the best relationships come from people in proximity getting to know each other well as friends and liking each other's deeper personalities. Think of Chandler and Monica, Harry and Sally, or a couple most people thought should have stayed together on How I Met Your Mother, Robin and Barney, who develop a romance after spending enough time together to appreciate just how much they enjoy and fit each other. What seems to be the trend on How I Met Your Mother, in other stories, and in real life, is that dating rules often do hold true for a while, only to fail in the face of a real connection. Because love doesn't really obey the rules. Charlotte has to let go of her meticulous checklist of ideal qualities in a man when she finds herself drawn to her divorce lawyer, Harry, who is almost the opposite of her theoretical Prince Charming and picture-perfect first husband, Trey.
Harry was bald and he talked with his mouth full. But I loved him anyway.
But eventually, she does have the type of fairy tale romance she always wanted. It's just with a bald, hairy, non-wasp man she slept with before they actually went on a date. In Clueless, when Cher realizes she likes Josh, she doesn't know how to act because she'd feel weird putting on some artificial show for him.
Ordinarily, I'd strut around him in my cutest little outfits and send myself flowers and candy, but I couldn't do that stuff with Josh.
But this is precisely why they belong together, because he knows and loves her as she really is. The main characters of How I Met Your Mother are convinced by the rules in a number of plots with love interests who aren't the one, but go on to frequently break them when it comes to their true love. This is what Ted articulates in the 3 Days Rule episode. His love plot with Holly basically proves Barney's rule right, in an inverted way.
We should get married. That's it. We're totally going to Brazil together.
In the end, I didn't need to wait 3 days. But Holly really did.
But Ted adds that when it comes to his soulmate, he did throw out the rule.
When I got your mother's number, I called her right away.
We see the same thing happen when Lily returns to Marshall in Season 2, Episode 7. The episode where Barney puts forward the crazy eyes as grounds for Marshall to reject his date, Chloe.
Ted says she has the crazy eyes. What's that? Apparently a thing women have that guys can see, and it tells them that the girl's crazy.
By the end of the episode, Lily displays full crazy eyes, but it doesn't matter because the power of love is greater than any rule.
You have crazier eyes than anybody that I've ever met. I've missed you so much.
Moreover, the central rule Ted believes in about the friend group's ideal couple, the Olive Theory.
The Olive Theory is based on my friends Marshall and Lily. He hates Olive, she loves them. And in a weird way, that's what makes them such a great couple. Perfect balance.
Turns out to be inaccurate.
Lily, I like olives.
We'll make it work.
So there's no good reason why Lily and Marshall are perfect for each other. They just want to be together and don't reliably follow any rules besides ones they make up for themselves, which they might even break too. Similarly, when Ted inadvertently gets Stella back together with Tony, if you look at it from Stella's and Tony's perspective, the deeper story is, again, that they were following love, and no rule following could have really stopped this in the long run.
And that, kids, was the perfect ending to a perfect love story. It just wasn't mine.
This fallibility of the rules also applies when it comes to deal breakers, or the personal laws people think they can't give up for a partner. Ted has specific things he wants in a woman and believes he's unwilling to compromise on.
Maybe there are some girls who wouldn't like it that I called them right away or said things too soon, but guess what? Those aren't the right girls for me.
But he time and time again puts Robin first, even though she doesn't want kids like he wants most of all. Even Barney gives up his player's life, first for Robin and then permanently for his daughter. In fact, the reason Barney says no to Anita is that he's made a promise to Robin, who on some level he still loves, which is why he means no and is able to break Anita's will. And the plot ends up proving that any rule, however on the money it is, just can't compete with the power of love. For most people, following any dating rules religiously doesn't lead to love or happiness. This is the moral of the movie Don John, where player John relishes his routine of picking up girls until his match on the female side of this game, Barbara, succeeds in hooking John into a serious relationship by intentionally withholding sex from him. All these rules on both John's and Barbara's side don't nurture an authentic two-sided connection. John only starts to think more deeply and intentionally when he goes to night school and is influenced by Esther, a more experienced woman who doesn't care about any rules.
What do you get from porn that you don't get from sex with an actual person?
I lose myself.
Undeniably, observing common patterns and rules of thumb can be useful in evaluating another person's interest or developing good instincts about whether a potential partner is right for you. Yet any adherence to rules and expectations has to be fluid.
Like a lot of rules, there are times to follow them and times to not.
Taking into account context and re-examining the rules as life changes, just as relationships and people are dynamic and multifaceted. When Marshall and Lily notice they've broken the majority of their wedding vows, they make new ones.
Then I vow to keep updating them as we go. Because one set of vows, it can't cover a lifetime of growing and changing with you.
Any practice of adhering to rules is essentially controlling and hiding one's feelings to retain a certain image, instead of truly following where a love connection takes you. Yet the birth of real love depends on a level of abandon, being willing to go to a place that may be humbling, scary, and out of your control. It also needs to be nurtured by a feeling of warmth and openness in communications. When we instinctively sense a person is playing games, that coldness can actually kill the organic developing attraction. As a culture, we're obsessed with the rules of attraction because these interactions involving people's feelings are specifically not governed by the kinds of rules that theoretically structure other aspects of life, where it's much easier to follow a correct path to get the outcome you desire.
Men don't want a woman who's too self-sufficient.
Ultimately, the majority of dating rules have been about trying to get another person to like you. But when artifice and etiquette are stripped away after rules have been followed or broken, the truth boils down to one thing that you can't control. They either like you or they don't.
That's The Take. Click here to watch a video we think you'll love, or here to check out a whole playlist of awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.